What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the data points, break it down on what moved it today, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi went up 1.76%, 26.39 the high, 26 the low, and just shy of around 35 million shares being traded. So kind of a low volume day. Initially, we did see some volatility as the market was digesting kind of the data that did come out. But aside from that, it was kind of a boring day. Nothing wrong with that, though, because green is green, though. When it came down to the broader market, it was initially hyped up because of Greenland and how that all really went down. The states ultimately saw that as a success, so they got access to Greenland in the capacity that they did want. And then the EU saw it as a win as well. And a lot of articles are kind of portraying the EU defeating the states. So kind of comical, but still nonetheless, EU sees it as a win, states sees it as a win, market was very happy. So that's one thing that was really starting to push the broader market higher. We also did have some data that came out first thing. So GDP came in at 4.4, forecast of 4.3. On point stuff, so that kind of really did move higher the broader market. And then we did have initial jobless claims and PCE both coming in a little bit hotter, although PCE was outdated information, so it was from October and November, so I feel like the market kind of disregarded that. But it was GDP. That's one thing that really caused some volatility because it was largely positive. So market is still torn whether we move higher with positive data or lower, and this is something I've complained about for a while now, so that's kind of what caused some volatility. But specific to SoFi, there was no SEC filings, no press releases. One thing that did come out today was the new IPO for BitGo, and so SoFi was acting as co-manager. And so I think in general, successful IPO is always seen as a good thing, so potentially might get SoFi some more business. Although with this, how this IPO did go, you had a little bit of a push higher. So initially came in, or was set to come in at $18, jumped right to, looks like $23 and change. High of 24.50, and then it just went down. So I don't know if this would be considered a successful IPO. I guess still green is green, but still this might get SoFi's name out there a little bit more. So something, again, just to kind of keep in mind. I don't really see this being a crazy catalyst that you need to buy SoFi because of this, but it's something that SoFi has been really working on since, I believe, late 2023 or early 2024. So it's just a matter of time before SoFi does get more of these kind of businesses, and it's going to be some pretty easy money, essentially. But aside from that, looking at shorts and what they did today. So shorts did return about 84,000 shares. So this is following yesterday when they returned roughly around 1.5 million. 9.37% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 116 million shares overall being shorted. Still two signs of manipulation. So you have some naked shorting going on, shares on loan being at 108 versus 116 being shorted. So that shouldn't happen. Plus cost to borrow minimum is negative. So that's been kind of a common scenario for SoFi for a while now. But looking at the options, we had 23 million in calls, 6.8 in puts. 44% of all the options being done were bullish in nature. Interesting though, for their upcoming earnings, which is slated for January the 30th, the expected move did drop a little bit, now to 7.7%. So roughly a $2 move in either direction is anticipated based on the options. So let me know if any of you are playing SoFi's earnings through options at all or anything. I'm not really doing anything, I don't believe, for that week. So a lot of mine are further dated. So let me know what you guys are doing. Aside from that, from a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around 26.50 to 27 by the end of day tomorrow. So with tomorrow being Friday, on a side note, this is the open interest. So you have 11,000 at the 26, 12,000 at the 26.50, 19,000 at the 27, 13,000 at the 27.50, and 20,000 at the 28. So if things really do heat up, you could see a little bit of a gamma squeeze, but keep in mind, typically shorts like to get very active around this. So by the second half of tomorrow, then you could see some kind of volatility. On a side note, there's a lot of big data coming out tomorrow, just on a side note. So there's flash data, composite manufacturing services, and that's right after the bell, and then Michigan consumer sentiment. So that's going to most likely move the broader market for tomorrow at least. Aside from that, getting back to it, so the bears are anticipating for tomorrow to be kind of sub 25. So they're anticipating clearly a miss from the data that's coming out tomorrow. These are some of the big transactions that did occur on the secondary market above $100,000. Today, it's honestly, I'd like to say that big money knows what the hell they're doing, but the more I focus on the true data behind the scenes, they are pretty much just glorified swing traders, because like yesterday, technically they were kind of selling. They do strategically trade, but this basically shows that there was a overwhelming amount of buying going on. So that's a good thing, of course, but again, kind of polar opposite to yesterday, which was polar opposite to the day before. So institutions are just all over the place, and I guess you can't really blame them, because all it takes is one tweet and the whole market just takes a quick 180. But some big ones from today: 67.8 million, 26.1, 8.2, 6.9, 3.6, all buys except for that 8.2 million. So that was done kind of first thing. So most likely that's why we did see a lot of this kind of up and down motion first thing. Aside from that, these were some of the transactions that did occur on the dark pool. So you had a 1 million share transaction. So that worked out to be 26.1 million. And then the following one, which was done pretty much right after the bell, was 20.1 and also 16.2. And based on the timestamp, that was one institution, most likely. Could be reacting to Intel's earnings. I know that's kind of a thing that's the market's going to be paying attention to after hours today. But aside from that, with it closing at 26.09, smack dab in the middle between this pivot and this S1. So 25.92 followed by 25.59 is going to be support levels. 26.46 and 27 is going to be the next strong target / resistance points. Aside from that, getting back to this, there really hasn't been any new analyst ratings, no articles really coming out. I kind of looked at Anthony's tweets. He hasn't really done anything since roughly the 17th, so he hasn't given any Easter eggs, although he is in like a quiet period, so a lot of CEOs have to be very cautious about what they say, more specifically leading into their earnings. So that's why he's being relatively quiet. Aside from that, though, on the actual chart itself, I'd like to say that things are optimistic, but looking at the market position, you see a small amount of willing buyers, but still this overwhelming amount of sellers. So still looks like the broader market seems a little bit optimistic, but there is a certain level of hesitation based on that. Right now it is below that 10-day moving average. So best case scenario, we do get some good solid data tomorrow. We push above that 10-day moving average. Then potentially next week we could test that 50. So the 50-day moving average is sitting at 27.39, and that's a very big deal for a lot of kind of growth stocks such as SoFi, but looking at that 10-day moving average, that's sitting at 26.62. So that's going to be something to really watch for tomorrow. But aside from that, though, as I've mentioned many times, it is very difficult to catch the highs as well as the lows with SoFi. Best thing to do is just dollar cost average. So let me know your thoughts on SoFi. And if you are kind of doing anything in regards to their earnings, are you playing any options or whatever else? One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for some solid on-point buy signals on stocks, options, crypto. Put out daily day trades, numerous swing trades, worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.